Hey, New Life family, it's time again for our TRAC Devotional. And we are in a wonderful story of Joseph. And you have already read how Joseph had his dreams of the sheaves that were bowing down to him, which represented his brothers one day bowing down to him, and the sun, moon, and the 11 stars bowing down to him, and how that represented one day that his whole family was going to bow down to him. And of course, his brothers wanted nothing to do with that because they already hated Joseph because he was his father's favorite. And so they plotted to kill him, but instead they sold him into slavery. And he ends up in Egypt, of all places, Egypt. And he then becomes the servant of Potiphar and does a fantastic job because he's still serving God, he's still trusting God, and God honors him. And Potiphar really trusts him and gives him command and charge over his household. But then we know the tragedy of David being accused of something he didn't do, and it lands him in prison. Well, it's in prison where he meets the cupbearer and the baker of the king, and he interprets their dreams. And of course, they come true. And then later on, he gets to interpret the Pharaoh's dream. And because he interprets the Pharaoh's dream, Joseph is put second in command of all of Egypt. And he knows exactly what to do of the famine that is going to be coming, and to store up all the grain in those storehouses. And so finally, when the famine comes, everywhere they're in desperate need of food, and of course Israel is as well. And so Jacob, or Israel, sends his sons to get the grain. And who are they standing before? They are standing before Joseph. Joseph is standing in charge of his brothers. And then, we have to read this verse. This is the verse that was like, wow, this is awesome to me. And it's it's chapter 42 in verse 9. And I'll just read a little bit of it. It says this: Then he, or Joseph, remembered his dreams about them. And I don't know what was going through Joseph's head, but maybe it was like, wow, now I understand. Why did I have to go through all those horrible events? Why did all those things have to happen to me? All those unfair things when I did nothing wrong. And now he's standing second in command in front of his brothers. And maybe it's all coming back to him. Wow, God is in control. Wow, God really knows what he is doing. And of course, I won't go through the whole story because we still have to read it. But what a great nugget of truth, my friends, that God is in control and he knows what he is doing. Maybe you're thinking in your life too, why are these things happening? Why are these circumstances lining up the way they are? I don't understand. Maybe you're confused, or maybe it's unfair, just like Joseph. Or maybe it's relationships and other struggles in your life. Trust in God and rely on him, because God has the perfect timing and he knows how to get you in that perfect place that he needs you. And sometimes circumstances have to line up as they do for that to happen. How did Joseph get to Egypt? He got to Egypt because he was sold into slavery, right? How did he get into second in command? He got there because he was in prison and got to interpret the dreams of those other two men. God knows what he's doing. And we have to trust and rely on God. Look at Joseph. It was about 22 years from the interpretation of the dream, or actually from being sold as a slave into standing before his brothers. That's a long time to wait. But I'm sure in that verse 9, Joseph was like, I get it. And I'm sure to him it was so worth it. Not only was he able to save his family from the famine and give them food, but really all of Israel all of Israel ended up being rescued. It's just phenomenal. It's, God is in control. Let that sink in. Read verse 9 and just let that sink into church family, because God knows how to get you into that perfect place where He has a calling on your life, or where He has promised you something, or where He has instilled something into your heart. And it might not seem like it's coming to be, but it will, because God is faithful. You are in God's hand, and He did not forget you, and He is in control. Be encouraged, church family. Isn't this such a wonderful story? So keep reading and find out what happens. But I'm going to have to cheat a little bit and tell you something that Joseph said in verse 50. And I'm going to end here. This is so encouraging. And when he said to his brothers, "What you meant for evil against me, God used it for good." There, God can turn anything into good. Keep trusting Him and believing that He's in control. Be encouraged, church family. We love you so much. See you.